Welcome to Beyond the Muscle. I'm pleased to welcome our next guest to the show, Darren Shepherd-Loxton. So, Darren is a natural bodybuilder. He's a contest prep coach and a posing coach, and he's had a great year so far. So, yeah, he's coached a number of athletes to the stage this year, a couple rather. I've had the pleasure of sharing the stage with. And we've got world champion Dan Sutcliffe, of course, who's had a great season himself, and fellow Masters athlete James Durham, who I've shared the stage with, I believe it's 4 times this year. And yeah,
Mm.
I'm going to hopefully get him on soon. James is one of the most shredded individuals out there. And yeah, so how's this year been for you, Darren, from a coach's perspective? How's it been for you?
Hectic,
Yeah.
busy, fun. All the goodness. You as a contest prep coach, you kind of go through phases where you know that the year builds up to a really, really busy period.
Mm,
And of course, your whole season is almost outlined by the success of your clients, right? So
right.
the better your clients are doing, the busier it is.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of success this year. And success is obviously defined by lots of things, right? Obviously, winning shows is success, but just bringing your absolute best to the stage, that's also success. Um, so I think it was 22 athletes on stage this year.
Wow. That many. I didn't realize
Um,
it was that many. I've made a list. I didn't know it was that many. That's amazing.
yeah, so, across lots of federations,
Yeah.
um, and of course, competing abroad as well.
Mm,
So a lot of shows. And it gets that bottlehead. When you get to
mm,
July through to like October, it's
yeah.
really busy.
Was it
And as you
July
as
the
you'll know
first?
yourself, sorry.
Was it July the first? Your first one this year? Your first batch of shows? Or...
No, so my first show this year was in June, beginning of
Okay.
June.
Mm.
And that was WMBF Singapore.
Oh well. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And
Mm.
then of course, then you got all the British shows that they come thick and fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's every weekend at shows. So yeah, overall season was brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it your busiest year so far? Would you say as a coach?
No, no.
No.
I would say the last 5 or 6 years
Yeah.
have been pretty much on a par.
Pretty much standard. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you get some years where maybe it's a little quieter,
Mm.
but I would average between 15 and 20 on stage in a season.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a fair amount as well. So
Yeah,
you do posing coaching as well. Do you do that separately from bodybuilding?
yeah, very much so. So I pose coach with a lot of other coaches' clients.
Got it. Yeah.
So I'm very good at distinguishing like the boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah.
And other coaches trust me to not overstep that boundary in terms of if someone comes to me for posing coaching, we're doing posing. We're
Mm.
not talking about their prep.
Yeah.
Of course, there'll be general chit chat, and we are talking about how they're doing and how they're getting on and stuff. But there's no boundaries crossed. It's very much professional. We're posing.
Mm.
Um, you can't contradict someone else, right? I
No,
may
that's
not
it.
agree, I may not agree with what another coach is doing for that person, but that's not my place.
Mm.
So yeah, so you mentioned earlier about Dan Sutcliffe's clients.
Hmm.
I pose coach with them.
Got it.
So obviously I coach Dan, but he sends his clients to me to do posing.
Mm. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
And there are lots of other examples like that where other coaches will send their clients to me because, like the strength of a good coach is knowing your strengths, right? If
Mm.
you're not good at posing, or not necessarily good, but if you're not a posing coach,
Hmm.
then you're doing the best for your athlete by
Mm.
getting them to go to someone who is better at that part.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I never, yeah, proposing is something that doesn't really come naturally to me, but I've, yeah, looking through your Instagram, like kind of, yeah, all the posts you've done, it's clearly like a big part of what you do. What got you into posing, like specifically? I'm kind of, yeah, curious. How did that become like a passion of yours?
Well, my background's in martial arts,
Ah, okay.
so I kind of just had a knack for that kind of thing.
Mm.
But my eagerness to just not be crap at anything.
Yeah.
When I first decided I was going to compete, I became a student at posing.
Right.
Because we talk about the genetics in your first episode.
Mm.
I don't have the genetics of an elite athlete.
Hmm.
Um, so I had to make the most of what I've got.
Mm.
So posing does that. When
Yeah.
you don't have the best physique, you have to make sure you present it the best you can.
Mm. Yeah,
So
so
back in,
important.
bear in mind, this is back in the day when there was no social media.
Mm.
So I didn't have those tools. I would be getting DVDs,
Right. Wow.
and I would be buying DVDs of, and of course there was no, I wasn't getting natural athletes.
Yep.
I was, all like Melvin Anthony, for example,
Mm.
and just watching what they were doing and how they were presenting themselves. Um, I just enjoyed it. I just found that it was enjoyable, and I liked that part of it. My
Mm.
first ever routine that I did on stage, I loved it.
Yeah.
It wasn't very good, um, but for me, it was like I'd put the effort into it, and I wanted it to be good for myself, not for anything else. And I enjoyed it, and then I found like that's my thing. I love
Mm.
posing.
Yeah.
I managed to make the best of my physique by presenting it well.
Yeah.
And I think that's attributed to some of my success on stage as well, of course.
Yeah, well,
But
you clearly excel at it, and I really found the one you did of Dan Sutcliffe particularly interesting. The little tweaks you made to his back posing. So
yeah,
there's one shot where his back looks a lot better than the other, but his glutes look better in one pose, and yeah, that was particularly insightful. So I think there's definitely a bit of a balancing act there with in terms of which muscles to bring out. So yeah, that was very cool.
I do feel like with posing coaches, and of course, I still watch a lot of other coaches.
Mm,
So the top posing coaches out there, I will watch what they do and I will see what they do, and I'll take it. You're always a student, right? You
mm,
always need to make sure that you sharpen your tools, and getting little things and just watching what people do. The fundamentals of posing is your feet.
mm.
People don't set their feet right.
Yeah, yeah,
People will do a great routine, but not one shot will be hit properly. But to
right.
the audience, it might look great because it might be flowy, it might be aesthetic. And then I can sit there from a judging perspective, even though I'm not judging, and I'm going, well, didn't actually set his feet once.
Right.
None of his pictures are going to be any good because he
Mm,
hasn't done this, he hasn't done that. To the audience, it's a nice dance,
yeah.
but he hasn't actually hit any poses properly. So
Mm,
I became very critical of things like that. So posing then becomes okay, fine tuning. It doesn't matter what level you are as an athlete.
yeah.
Your posing can always be tweaked to get the best out of your physique. And there are fundamentals to posing. There are principles that you put in place, but then there are okay, lever length.
Mm,
The size of your legs depends on where you might put your feet. The how your hips insert might be how much you push your hips back. Can
mm,
you bring your lats out? If you're not bringing your lats out, it might be because your shoulders are tight.
yeah.
So it's like little things make big differences in posing.
Mm, yeah.
So I became a student of that very quickly because I just enjoyed that critique part of it. And I do feel like that's probably come from my martial arts background
Right, yeah.
because I used to teach karate.
Oh, okay.
So I was very, about the small little things that make big differences. That's what we
Yeah.
did in karate. So
Mm,
then that kind of transfers into coaching with us.
yeah. And that really transfers into posing itself. Yeah, this was the
Mm.
first time I got posing coaching. And yeah, it was incredible. We did online sessions, and then I had a lot of homework to do. I was doing daily posing, and then one tweak I made towards the end of prep, which because I got fairly lean this season, but I was a little surprised that certainly my prep up to the BNBF Southern, I was still quite lean up to that point, but I couldn't bring out like the sartorius the front of my just next to my quads. And I thought, why is this? I'm definitely lean enough for those muscles to be showing. There are athletes who are softer than me that have that muscle visible, but yeah, Josh advised me to just push my hips back slightly, and instantly that just brought them out. And it was a game changer, and it made my quads look so much better from the front. And it was the smallest of changes, just getting the hips back. So yeah, really does make
And
a
the
difference.
thing is, switching legs on is actually one of the hardest parts for a bodybuilder on stage.
Right, right.
But it's about angles and what you just said there about just pushing your hips back slightly. But
Mm,
it's also about not actually trying to squeeze the quads too hard. It's
mm,
about creating tension through your hip flexors.
yeah,
By
yeah,
rotating your knees out, you'll
yeah.
create that tension in your outer sweep. So you
Mm,
can switch them on without actually squeezing them too hard.
yeah.
And all
No,
these
that
little
makes sense.
tools just make it so much easier to stand on stage.
Yeah, 'cause you're right. It's not just a case of tensing the quads. I find a better teaching point for me is just kind of push the knees out, and that
Yeah.
brings my quads out. But yeah, it's one of those things you just have to put the hours in, don't you, with the posing.
Absolutely. Not being lazy with it. That's
No,
important.
it really is important. Yeah, so like I've asked my last two guests, Darren, what got you into bodybuilding?
So a multitude of things, really. So what got me into actually bodybuilding is just someone saying to me, you should do a show. Um, I always trained.
Mm,
From the age of 6, I boxed. I then went to karate from 10, fought in the world championships with the British team for karate. Um, Translated that into just generally training in the gym. And then I owned a gym. So I owned a gym for 15 years.
wow.
And one of my good friends that used to come to the gym just made a passing comment. And it was me and Rob Waterhouse, who you'll know.
Mm.
And we were training partners. He worked for me. And he was like, why should do a show? Like, why haven't you? Why? I was like, behave. Like, I'm not a bodybuilder. Bearing in mind, I was thinking bodybuilder as in like people who are on steroids, assisted bodybuilders, because that was all I knew.
Yeah.
Rob used to buy Flex magazine. He had all the muscle and fitness So all the magazines that we had in the gym were the ones that Rob bought because he was a massive bodybuilding fan. And I wasn't really. I just enjoyed training. I trained like a bodybuilder,
Mm.
but I wasn't one.
Yeah.
And then we went to the BMBF Southern in 2007,
Wow. Yeah.
and we went down there with a friend who was sponsoring one of the classes and watched the show. And there was a guy called Sean Ferguson on stage, and he was incredible. And of course, you'll know this. We're watching in the audience, and he was massive, like
Mm.
the biggest arms I've ever seen,
Hmm.
like incredible. And he won the overall, and he looked incredible. And then he came to speak to us because our friend knew him, and he was tiny.
Yeah.
I was like, Christ.
Yeah.
Bearing
Yeah.
in mind, I'm full off season, very chunky, and I'm thinking, I'm bigger than this guy. How, like, he looked enormous on
Mm.
stage. I think maybe I can do this. So we just embarked on our first proper off season, 6 months of getting even fatter,
Yeah.
um, and then decided to 2008 to do our first show, and
Right.
and that was it. I was
Yeah.
only doing it once. I was 34 at the time,
Yeah. Oh, so you were
so
quite
I
late
was
as well when you got into it. Yeah.
very much so. Yeah. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this for one attempt,
Yeah.
just to say I've done it. I
Mm.
live in the gym. I'm there every day. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then I did all right, and I was
Yeah.
like, maybe I could do this again.
Yeah. How did you do
And
at your
then,
first show, Darren?
so I did the BMBF Scottish, came
Yeah.
third, but got an invite to the finals.
Hmm.
Um, Upon getting my invite to the finals, I instantly was like, yes, I'm doing the finals. It's a British finals. Why would you not?
Mm.
I came home and told the wife that I was going to do the finals in September. Her response was, "Why? You can't win. You only came third."
Right. Right.
Right, cheers.
Yeah.
She
Cheers.
was right.
Thanks.
She
Yeah.
was right. I look. I went on stage in my first show. My ambition was look like I deserved to be there.
Mm.
Nothing above and beyond that. I'm a competitive athlete. I want to win everything,
Mm.
but I also knew that I wasn't in that place.
Right.
This was my first outing. I just want to look like I deserve to be there and see where I line up. I did
Mm.
all right. I got an invite to the finals. They thought I was good enough to go to the British. That was enough for me.
Yeah.
Consequently, I beat both the guys at the finals that beat me at the qualifier,
Oh, amazing.
and took fifth place at the British.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the end of the story. Like, I was hooked, and
You
like
got the
I took
bug.
a year. I then took a year off because I realized that like I was fifth, and I was first out of the other 10.
Right.
Like
Right. Yeah.
the four above me were miles above me.
Right.
Like they
Mm.
were they were all outstanding, and I was the best out of the others.
Got it.
Um,
Right.
but that was enough for me. I was like, right, I can do this. I'm gonna have a year. That was the
Mm.
best off season, obviously, to that point that I'd ever had because it was focused.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that was it. I was just hooked. And then every year I've done year on year off. I've had
Yeah.
a couple of times where I've done 2 years off
Uh-huh.
for reasons out of my control.
Yeah.
Um, but pretty much other than on those two occasions, it's been year on year off.
Yeah. And you compete, yeah, so almost every year since 2007. And have you competed in a combination of open and masters or just open? A bit of both?
I started in the lightweights.
Lightweights, yeah. Yeah.
So I did, so 2008, 2010, 2012, 2014, I did lightweights all the way through.
Yep.
And in 2014, I was eligible. No, not no. 2007. Then I took 2 years off,
Yeah.
and in 2017 was the first time I was eligible for masters.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did lightweights at. They did a body power show.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
won the lightweight class at body power,
Mm.
and then I won the masters class at the Welsh.
Wow. Okay. Oh,
So
good
then I had the
season.
choice at the finals which to do, and I did lightweights
Yeah.
and got smoked. So
Right. Right. Yeah.
I came fourth. I came
Yeah.
fourth behind three very, very good athletes. But
Mm. Yeah.
and then
That's
since that year, I've always then done masters.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think yeah, it's obviously the open division is tough, but this year it's because I'd had 9 years off as well, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna enter masters. I think that'll be a slightly easier gateway back into bodybuilding. The quality is still pretty amazing in masters. I
Yeah,
was shocked at how good some of these masters athletes are. It's incredible.
it's funny because like, I remember when I first did masters, and there was a prominent bodybuilder that was very vocal on social media saying how like doing masters is almost a cop out because it's like if you're not good enough anymore as a lightweight,
Mm,
you've gone into the masters because it's an easy ride, and I'm like, have you seen these guys?
yeah, yeah,
It's like obviously being a master, of course. I think the depth in the masters classes aren't as good
yeah,
because there are some masters that are clearly not at that level,
hmm
but as there is in every class.
yeah,
But the guys at the top,
mm,
like yourself, you've been competing or you've been training
mm,
for a long time.
yeah, yeah,
So the quality of your physique is outstanding. Now, of
mm,
course, there comes a tipping point where age catches up with you, and
yeah,
maybe then you do regress. But even in the over 50s,
mm,
you see some of the over 50s guys, and these guys are quality.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
So
they
so
really are.
next year I turn 50.
Yeah, mm,
And it's like again, someone's made the comment, you'll smoke that. And I'm like seriously. Like I
mm.
am a lightweight. I will compete at around 66 kilos.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
When I
What's
did
your
the
height,
world
Darren?
sorry?
How tall are you?
Well, I used to be 5'7", so
Right, right, okay. Yeah, so yeah, 5'7" ish. Yeah,
ish, yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think I think I may have lost a little bit, but I'm around 5'7".
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah,
But
you're right though. The quality even in the over 50s is astounding. Dean Wilson, don't you if you're familiar with him, he won.
again, posing client, so he's
Oh,
come to
really?
me for posing.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, I spoke to him. He came to a lot of the same shows as me. We chatted a lot this year. And yeah, incredible physique. And someone who's fairly new into bodybuilding as well. Quite interesting. And yeah, he's just
and
cleaned up.
and you look at his physique, and it's still very young. Got a
Yeah.
very fresh young physique.
hmm Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
But
He
yeah,
was
it doesn't get any easier.
no, no, it doesn't. Yeah, I want to go back into your training. I want to chat about that soon as well. But going back to the coaching, I'd like to ask. I'm kind of curious to know this. Like from a coach's perspective, what are some of the traits that all of the top athletes have in common? I don't mean top athletes from a perspective of placings, but just guys that just get the job done and do well. What are the things that they tend to have in common?
Consistency and work ethic to do the work. Like
Mm,
your goals have to align with your ability to do the work, right?
mm,
And it's a frustration when you have someone whose ability doesn't match their ambition.
mm.
So they can do more, but their ambition to do it isn't there,
Right.
or they don't tick the boxes that they need to tick to be able to be where they want to be. And that can be the same in most aspects, right?
Mm,
So the top athletes, they have the work ethic. They have that mindset that, look, as a coach, you're there to steer the ship, make the right decisions, give some feedback based on, look, what I'm seeing, not what you're feeling. A lot
mm,
of the time, people will make decisions through emotion. As a coach, you don't have that emotion. You don't feel what they're feeling.
mm.
So you can be more objective.
Yeah.
The top athletes are the people that just do the work relentlessly and they have that work ethic to get it done.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense.
And,
Yeah.
and I think that's I can speak from every athlete that I've worked with. Um, there are ones that don't put the work in
hmm
and it reflects.
Yeah. Yeah, consistency. That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I presumed it'd be something like that. Yeah, it's just a case of getting the job done, regardless of what else is happening, really. Yeah.
There's always lots of variables that are involved in every aspect of whether it's an off season or an actual contest prep. But you have to make sure that the variables are in your control, and those that are not in your control, you need to just manage them.
Mm.
Can't be perfect. Things are
Yep.
never perfect.
No, no.
But if you manage the variables and you trust it, like also you're trusting your coach.
Mm. That's a big one. Yeah. Yeah.
Because ultimately your coach is always going to have your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
have to. That's their job.
Mm.
And I always advocate that. Look, this is my job. My
Mm.
job is to get the best out of you.
Mm.
But I need your help with that.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you're accountable to yourself first and foremost. And then, of course, it's nice to be accountable to your coach
Yeah.
and everyone else around you that's supporting you.
Mm.
But ultimately, it's about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
No.
do the work.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Um, what would you say? Obviously, you've got a lot of experience coaching clients, but not just from coaching, but in your view, in terms of bodybuilding generally, what would you say are some of the biggest mistakes that athletes make during a contest prep?
Food choices, focus, being too food focused. You'll see it all the time, right? Where people are obsessed with what they're going to eat post show.
Yeah, God, so much. Yeah.
I feel like that is one of the biggest downfalls to a prep.
Mm,
Um, because if you're consumed with what you're going to eat post show, rather than what you're going to do post show in terms of getting better for the next show,
mm,
then there's something wrong.
mm,
Are you dieting so that you can have a cheat meal? Like,
mm,
no, you're dieting so you can get on stage and look wicked
mm.
and hopefully do well,
Yeah.
but ultimately look great.
Yeah.
When you get off stage, your first thought should be, what do I need to do to be better at the next one? Now, if you're just a one show and done, it's
Mm,
different. But like, I'll use Dan as an example. He didn't have a single cheat meal this prep.
mm. Yeah.
Now, we had lots of refeeds.
Hmm.
We had lots of high days.
Yeah.
Um, but we had no cheat meals. We had no junk food. We had no food that are going to create issues for you mentally.
Yeah.
And I feel like food creates mental issues when you have too much focus on it.
Mm. Yeah.
That I think that's probably the biggest downfall for athletes. And you do
Mm.
see it. How many athletes did you see this year that didn't look as good at the end of the season as they did early in the season?
Yeah. No, it's true. It happens. Yeah. The food, that's such a good point with the food focus. To be fair, I was surprised at how easy it's been for me since competing that I haven't just ballooned in weight, but then, like I was saying to Christian on the last episode, I upped the calories quite drastically post show just to get my body weight up to a healthy weight. And I've had, yeah, very little food focus at all. Whereas last time, back in 2015, I really, really struggled because I binged a lot post show, but then I also tried to gradually bring calories up, and that was a mistake. But yeah, also, I think dropping calories really, really low can help amplify that food focus as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, you've got to be sensible.
It does depend, like where you go down to in a cut,
Mm,
how low you have to go and how hard you have to dig to get into condition always plays a part in that, of course.
mm,
And how you come out of it, like you've just said, coming out too slow.
mm,
I see bad examples of it all the time where people are attempting to come out of it too slow. Firstly, well, it might be because their coach says so.
mm.
Then that could be the point.
Yeah.
But because they're too afraid to let go of the condition. You
Mm,
worked, and I get it. I understand it. You worked so damn hard to look this great.
yeah.
You don't want to let it go.
That was
You
my
want to
problem.
hold on to it, but it isn't healthy.
No.
You said that in your last episode. It isn't healthy.
Mm,
Christian does the right thing. He
mm,
said it himself. Get healthy again. Get off
mm,
stage. Make good food choices. Get back to a good, healthy place so that you can train hard again.
mm.
I do think, though, your mindset post show is dependent on what your goals are post show.
Right.
I've got a client now, and she won't. She obviously she doesn't. You don't know who it is, but her goal post show is to kind of almost like stay looking good.
Okay.
She's not got no desire to get back on stage anytime soon.
Mm.
And that's made it hard for her.
Hmm.
I've got someone else who like has got off stage and can't wait to go again.
Mm.
They're having a year off season, but they're hungry to make improvements to be better. And their
Mm.
mindsets are so different
Yeah.
in terms of how they see food.
Hmm.
One's really struggling to stay consistent with food, keeping good food, and one is nailing it easily.
Mm. Yeah, that's
So your
interesting.
mindset post show, I feel, makes a big difference.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, actually. I hadn't really considered that. What would you say are some of the biggest or some of the best ways people can kind of mitigate that food focus, like during a contest prep?
Well, firstly, it's about eating enough and not.
Mm.
We're bodybuilders. We're athletes. We're not starvation.
Yeah,
This isn't Weight Watchers. We're not trying to starve ourselves to get in shape.
yeah.
I think the most important part of a contest prep is muscle preservation.
Mm. Yeah, so true.
Um, it's look, it's easy to lose weight.
Mm.
The principle of losing weight is pretty damn easy,
Mm.
but losing it at a steady enough pace to look like you still train
Yeah, yeah.
is hard, and that's why we diet slowly. So I would say the things you need to do coming into a contest prep is firstly have food high enough before you start dieting,
Yeah.
so that when you do diet, you can diet enough on enough food. Don't be too tempted to drop food too quickly. Be
Mm.
patient, so give yourself enough time. And then when you get to the end of your prep, you should be in a good enough place that food focus isn't crazy.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. It really is tied into overall calorie consumption. It's dropping things too low that's going to have those pretty disastrous effects. Yeah, makes a ton
And
of
then
sense.
post show, getting food up to a good enough place so that you're not starving.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's no
Because
point prolonging it.
now, inevitably post show, you're going to want to eat things that you haven't eaten on prep, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And I advocate that. I
Hmm.
advocate eating some foods that you want to eat.
Yeah.
But if you undereat the foods that you should eat, then
Mm.
you'll overeat the foods you shouldn't eat in volume.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
So you got to get this amount, the good stuff, up high, and then
Mm.
you're not hungry.
Mm.
So you might still want it. Look, we've all been in that place where I'm not hungry, but I'm still going to eat that because it's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
And that fades really quickly if your food is high enough
Yeah, that's true.
post show.
Mm. Yeah, what are some of the biggest mistakes you've made in your own prep? I'm curious to know because I'm sure I've certainly made tons of mistakes. But more related to dieting, yeah, what are some of the mistakes you've made food
So
wise?
I self coached every show until 2000 and what are we now 24, so I competed 23, 20, 21. So 2022 was the first time I brought someone else in and worked with me.
Okay.
And it was my best mate Rob.
Yeah.
um, I wanted him to coach me because we align. We have the same principles. I He sends me all his progress pictures. I look at all his work. Obviously, he's been coached by Vicky McCann, but I still see all his progress. So I send him all mine anyway.
Mm.
So I'm like, do you know what? This year I'm going to let you do it all.
Mm.
And the reason I did it is because of all the mistakes I've made previously, which gets back to the question is I'm too hard on myself. I do too much and eat too little because in my desire to be shredded, I will undereat
Yeah.
and I will overdo. And I wouldn't do this to you if I was coaching you.
Mm.
In my mindset for you, I'd like, if I know you need a refeed, I'm giving you a refeed.
Mm.
If I think I need a refeed, I'll question myself. Hang
Mm.
on, do I need a refeed or
Yeah.
am I just being weak?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I won't have one.
Mm.
But I need one.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be weak because I'm thinking about myself through an emotional lens. Whereas there's no emotion. When I see your physique, I know you need a refeed. I know we need some high days. I don't do that for myself. I'll do too much. I'll bring calories down too quickly. And I'll end up pretty flat. I always used to really struggle to get full on stage.
Right. Right.
Our condition was never a problem, but fullness, because I would dig myself into a hole that was really hard to get out of. So I then really struggled to get full.
Mm.
When I worked with Rob the first year, we come off the first show, and I looked great. I was probably at about 90%. And in my mind, I'm like, right now we kick on. And he was like, no, you're still flat from peak week. We still need more food. So we'll have food high on Monday and Tuesday. Looked at me Tuesday, went, like, let's just run high food all week. I'm
Mm.
like, really?
Right.
And in my mind, I'm looking at the pictures going, he's right.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done that to myself because I wouldn't have wanted to come across weak. And in
Yeah.
my mind, I would have been like,
Mhm.
no, I need to dig. I need to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And lo and behold, it was the best physique I put on stage. And I did 7 shows that year.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and it was the most consistent I looked all year. And it's because I had someone else just making the decisions that I would have made for myself if I wasn't feeling the way I
Mm.
felt.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
really interesting.
that was a big benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. I can really relate to that 100%. I was self-coached in my first season and I certainly got to some good condition, but yeah, I was exactly the same. I'd always question, do I need a refeed? And I would just skip refeeds because I thought I need to get leaner and leaner, and it was a
Yep.
bad mistake. And we never had to do that this year. And it's not as if I didn't give myself enough time. I thought I just had to suffer. I had to suffer to get results. But there is only so much suffering you need to do, really. I think to get to get the desired result. Yeah, that's so true. Very interesting. Yeah. Um, Yeah, I want to touch on your own training a little bit as well, Darren, a bit
Mhm.
further. So obviously, so you last competed in 2022. I've seen some of your training videos and is it like a home gym setup
Yeah.
you've got?
So when I closed the gym down in Abingdon that I had, I built my own gym at home.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it looks really cool.
So yeah,
Yeah, it looks
it's got everything I need.
yeah, it looks very well equipped, well equipped rather. So yeah, so when it comes to training, obviously the way we train like changes over the years. The way I train has certainly
Yeah.
evolved over the years. I'm a lot more precise with each rep now, and I definitely prioritize quality over quantity. Even though my volume is fairly high, it's a lot lower volume than it used to be in terms of like total sets performed. How would you say your training, how's that changed over the years?
So of course you get into a place where you watch what others do, and through the years of training, I followed lots of different plans. Plans that probably weren't suitable for natural athletes. Um, Stupid amounts of volume. I actually like volume. I
Mhm.
enjoy volume. I I enjoy burying myself. I don't enjoy burying myself as much anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
That is very, very obvious, and I have no issues in saying that. I still train very hard, but it's definitely not to the level that I used to train at.
Okay.
But it's all relative, right? If someone was to, if I was to have someone see me train, they would question that I'm not training hard. And I am training hard. I'm just not burying myself to the level I used to.
Mm,
So volume wise, it's definitely less.
hmm
Um, Unfortunately, through injury,
mm,
exercise selection has changed.
yeah.
I'm not able to do certain things I used to be able to do.
Mm,
So that has dictated as well. But the enjoyment for training has never, ever faltered. It's always been my enjoyment, and my desire to go and work hard has never changed.
right. Yeah.
The biggest principle of change is I do less volume now.
Yeah.
I have no issue with having a rest day anymore.
hmm
I quite enjoy my rest days now,
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
where that used to be probably one of the biggest issues. I remember doing one prep,
Mm,
and I reckon if I had 4 days off training in that whole prep, that would have been probably, yeah, no more than 4 in a
oh, the
whole
whole.
prep,
Wow. Wow.
which is, yeah, which is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Again, I was self-coaching,
Mm,
and why would I need to rest? I
mm,
can just keep going. I keep going. I keep going. And those rest days would have been because we were going out and I couldn't train.
yeah. Yeah. Right.
So now I have no issues with rest days. I am a massive advocate of rest days, obviously for my clients, and
Hmm.
it's something that they are benefiting from. My experience in rest days are very important,
Yeah.
but the volume of my training is a lot less.
Mm.
The amount that I'm moving has reduced
Mhm.
um, over several movements, but again, some of that is injury related.
Yeah. Has your
Um,
rep range kind of changed much over the years, or has that remained static?
so I've always been a higher end rep range on, so pushing movements, always worked between 8 and 12s.
Mm.
I feel I've never been a low rep range guy. I've never enjoyed it. I don't see the point in 4s to 6s. I don't care about being strong, but I don't care that much about the actual strength. Like I am strong for a bodybuilder,
Mm.
but I'm not strong.
Right, right.
Or I'd rather be strong at 8 to 12 than at 4 to 6.
Mm.
So I've always wanted to do that. Legs are always higher reps.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed 15 to 20 reps on legs.
Which is brutal in itself, isn't it, really? Yeah.
Yeah. I did a really long stint on Y3T, so Neil Hill's program.
Mm.
And he has one of the days, the high rep day. So it has you have a strength day, which is not high reps. It's not low reps. It's still, I think it's still 8 to 12s on your main compounds. And then you have it's like a slightly higher rep range, which is like 12 to 18 rep range day. And then you have a stupid high rep day where
Okay.
the leg press is 50 reps,
Wow. Okay. Like one set or
one set. You do 3 sets.
okay. Three sets of
It,
50 or
3 sets of 50.
geez, wow. Okay.
It's, but I used to love it.
Yeah.
Like it was that mental challenge.
Mm.
There's no surprise why a lot of bodybuilders like training legs, right? Because they're not right in the head.
Mm.
They like that mental challenge, that challenge that normal people can't do this.
Yeah.
So I used to love it.
Mm.
And I used to completely bury myself. And it was like recovery would be like a good 6 days of recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's completely counterproductive.
Mm.
Um, certainly not for a natural athlete to be doing.
Yeah.
But it was back in the day where I was bulletproof and I could do that.
Yeah. Yeah. You wouldn't do that now then, I take it. Those days
No,
are gone.
no.
No.
I still like a triple drop set on a leg extension, like a 60 rep leg extension.
Yeah.
But again, it's a different movement pattern. So again, recoverability is different.
Yeah.
The pain and the stimulus you get through a leg extension is completely different.
Mm.
It's not taxing you as much central nervous system wise either.
Yeah, it's just local pain, isn't
Yeah,
it, rather than
it's
systemic?
just pain. That's
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
you know, we always say like it's not how much you can do, it's how much you can do in the presence of pain.
Mm. Yeah. I think
And
that's
leg extension is very much one of those
yeah,
ones. Like you
it really is.
can keep going.
Mm.
Physically, you can keep going. Can you keep going mentally?
Yeah, I always say to my clients and other people with the leg extension, it's not failure that's stopping people, it's the pain that's the limiting factor. They can't tolerate it anymore.
But in any other walk of life, like when you feel that pain, it's your signal to stop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's a
You have to
natural
kind of
reaction.
you have to quieten that part of the brain with bodybuilding, don't you, really? And just
Yep,
ignore
definitely.
it. Yeah. Yeah, so true. I wanted to veer back to posing a little bit, if that's okay, Darren, because obviously
Hmm.
that's a big part of what you do. And we've touched on posing slightly, but when it comes to just posing in general, what are some of the most important things to consider in a contest prep?
Frequency, and frequency in terms of like not overdoing it as well as not underdoing it.
Okay, interesting.
Posing's fatiguing, right? So you
Mm.
accumulate fatigue by posing. So if your legs are tired, if you're really fatigued, then posing your legs hard every day is counterproductive.
Hmm.
So you are going to accumulate fatigue through training, through cardio if you're doing it, through steps if you're doing it, and then you add posing onto that as well. It's another level of fatigue.
Hmm.
So you've got to make sure you do your rounds. Posing fitness is very important.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you'll know that certain federations, you're on, might do a couple of rounds, you're off.
Mm.
Happy days, no problem. Anyone can do that. Other federations, you're doing quarter turns like for 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you're 5 rounds in, like, and you're
Mm,
still doing quarter turns.
yeah.
And then you've got muscularity to come. So if you're not posing fit, you're in trouble.
Mm,
So managing that, pose early in prep. Start posing at the beginning when you've got lots of energy, when you're
mm,
not fatigued. So get those foundations right. Don't
mm.
try and get all your look. I've had clients come to me 3 weeks out and they've not done posing.
Right, right.
Like you're already on your ass,
Mm,
already fatigued, and now you've got to learn how to pose and get stage fit,
yeah,
and you're simply not going to do it.
yeah,
It's simply not. You're then teaching people what positions they need to be in to create nice shapes.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
not going to get stage fit because they haven't got it in them to get to the gym every day and do it. So get stage fit early in prep.
Mm, yeah,
Don't
that's
leave
really
it.
important.
So then when it comes to the nitty gritty, 3, 4 weeks out, you haven't got to worry about it. You're still going to do it, but you're
Mm,
already fit. You're already nailed down.
mm,
Then the biggest mistake people make is they work too hard.
okay.
They pose too hard. I've
Mm,
been I've been to posing classes back when I started where the posing coaches were making you like squeeze the life out of yourself. Like squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. You just don't need to do that.
mm,
The best posers, you watch anyone on stage, who looks the best? The people that look like it's effortless.
mm, absolutely.
It's because they're working, but they're not overworking.
Mm,
So one of the things that I get first and foremost when I get a new client, we need to create pretty shapes. Once we've created that shape and we've got that nailed down, then we then work on contraction. How
mm,
hard do we need to work in this pose?
yeah.
When do we switch off and when do we switch back on? You'll hear people say, oh, that guy's got a really nice pop when he
Mm,
poses because he's not working all the way through the transition.
right.
He has a moment of, you're never resting, you're never off. There's a moment of poise,
Mm,
and then he hits the shot and he hits it. So he's not off, but he's not working too hard into the transition so that when they hit the shot, you see the difference.
mm,
When they're in the shot, they then have a controlled tension.
yeah.
The harder you squeeze it, it doesn't get any bigger, regardless of what people say.
Yeah, yeah. True,
It,
true.
there's a size, like you contract it, you hold that shot. If
Hmm.
you squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, you just get fatigued.
Hmm.
You don't get bigger.
Yeah.
Then it comes down to breathing. Um, One of the biggest mistakes I see when people come to me initially, people who compose, people who are they've got their posing nailed down, they're okay, but
Mm,
they don't breathe. They don't get
right.
their breathing patterns right.
Uh-huh.
And I liken it to a deadlift
Mm,
or have a breathing pattern.
yeah, yeah.
When you pose, you have a breathing pattern.
Mm,
So if you don't get that breathing pattern right, you'll start losing midsection control.
mm,
You'll start getting gassed. So you got to know when to set your feet, create your shape, inhale, exhale. Once you get that pattern down, posing becomes so much easier.
yeah.
And
That's amazing. Yeah.
and then that translates onto stage
Mm,
because on that fifth rotation, where the head judge is going, right, let's see it again.
mm,
You're like, let's go. No
yeah,
problem.
yeah, yeah. That's amazing advice actually, especially with the not holding each pose like 100%. Because I had a few people come up to me this year and said, you didn't even look like you were like shaking. A lot of people kind of shake when they pose, and I felt like I was shaking. I guess you do. You can notice these little
Yeah.
micro shakes, but they're not visible from the audience. And I guess it is just a case of people just tensing too hard that's making them shake and shudder like that. But yeah, that's
There's that level that you are tensing. You are working hard.
yeah, but it's kind of
You're just
controlled,
not,
isn't it?
yeah, it is that control. And that makes a big difference on stage.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. The endurance too, so important. I'm glad I worked on that this year because in my last show at the DFAC Worlds, I was in almost every call out, and obviously it was the
Yeah.
hardest I'd ever worked. So yeah, the endurance so important. Yeah, I
Which
question
is
whether
good
I
because you
post
know
too
you're in
much.
the mix when you're in the call outs.
Yeah,
You want
yeah.
that's where you want to be.
So it was a good thing. I was pleased I was in the mix, but at the same time, I was thinking, God, this is tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a stomach bug a week before the show as well that just completely wiped me out. Um,
But the thing is, all the hard work was done by then, so you didn't have to
yeah.
worry.
No, no, exactly. Yeah. My only worry was, am I going to make it to stage as I was crawling on the floor? But yeah, it's all good. I made it in the end.
You did
But
indeed.
yeah, yeah. But that's amazing advice and very very actionable as well. Um, what are your future plans, Darren, in terms of your next time on stage?
So I turn 50 in August next year.
Hmm.
So it'd be a shame not to be in good shape.
Mm,
So I'm going to compete next year.
amazing. Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I've already got the approval from the wife. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
ticked
the most
off.
important part. Yeah.
I wanted to. I said we're going on holiday for my birthday. Um, so I'm going to do a show prior to going away on holiday. Um, don't know which one yet. I've got a couple of options,
Mhm.
and then I'll see the season out and do the finals towards the end of the year as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll do a full season next year.
Oh, amazing. Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing you on stage. I'll be going to a few shows next year as a guest. So hopefully we'll catch up. We'll
Yeah,
catch up then in
absolutely.
person. Yeah, that's brilliant.
People
Yeah.
joke because I've retired a couple of times, but
Right. Yeah. You never retire.
I think it's one of those things that I did have it full intentions of retiring in
Hmm.
22.
Right.
Um, Having come off a bad injury previously, and competing through it, and I
Yeah.
didn't like how I looked.
Right.
So I wanted to do one more season just to kind of like cement that actually I want to finish looking how I wanted to look.
Mm.
And I had such a good year. I decided then to roll it over into the World Finals the following year as well.
Right.
So I did my first ever back-to-back seasons, 22 and 23.
I was going to say,
And
yeah, because I thought you did those back to back. Yeah, amazing.
but in 23 I only did two shows,
Okay.
and my season finished in June.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I'm curious actually, in the difference between 22 and 23, what was your physique? How did your 23 physique compare to the 22 physique?
I don't feel like it was any different. I felt like it was pretty much on par. Felt at the end of 22, having done seven shows, I
Mm.
felt remarkably good.
Hmm.
Um, and bearing in mind, that was my last season competing. I was done. I finished my season in Vegas. That was me done. I went to Miami. I went to LA for one day on the way home, and I was done. I was content. I'm done. But my intention was to. I don't like eating. Um, I'm not a big off-season eater. I don't like volume.
Yeah.
My intention was to stay in shape. I'm not a body. I'm done competing,
Mm.
so I'm going to stay in shape. So come January of 23, when Lee sent me the invite for the World Finals, which I knew I had, but it was an email through. It was like I was only 4 kilos up from stage.
Right, that's nothing.
Bearing in mind, I'd been in Vegas at the end of the year,
Mm.
gone to LA, got through Christmas, and I'm 4 kilos up. And I'm like,
Mm.
spoke to the child, I spoke to the children.
Hmm.
Should I compete? My
Yeah.
daughter was like, yeah. So I decided to do June, the World Finals. I did a PCA show in preparation for that,
Right, right.
um, just as a warm up.
Yeah.
And then my season was done. And
Mm.
then I was then asked, "Are you retired again?" And I'm like, I don't think I can ever say that again.
Yeah, yeah.
My plan was I have no intention, I have no plans to compete,
Hmm.
but I'm not saying I'm not going to compete.
Mm. Yeah. Leave the door open. Yeah.
And then as the year's gone on, as this year's progressed, and I'm creeping closer to next year, I've kind of gone, yeah, I want to compete next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I enjoy being on stage. I
Mm.
love the process. I am one of those weirdos that enjoys dieting.
Hmm.
I enjoy the challenge.
Yeah.
Uh, I enjoy the aspect of bodybuilding that I know that it's not for everyone, and I know
Yeah.
that if you get to stage, you're in a small group,
Mm. Very much so.
and I like that challenge. And I'm enjoying training. Food is in a good place.
Mm.
Weight's in a good place, and I'm ready to go next year.
I'm excited to see. Yeah, excited to see how that goes for you. Do you feel you've made any improvements, or is it too early to tell so far?
Do you know what? It's strange, right? Because it's like this year has been a very much a different approach. And I say that from an age perspective.
Mm,
Um, how much progression I can make at my age.
mhm.
Um, I'm not, it's going to sound weird. I'm not bothered about whether I look better.
Okay,
I want to be as good.
that's good. Yeah, yeah,
And I think in my early stages of bodybuilding, of course, I was younger and I had to be better.
yeah.
As you get older, from my perspective, I can only talk for myself,
Mm,
it become less about being better. Yes, of course, I'm training with the intention of being better,
yeah, you have to.
always.
Yeah.
But that's not important. In being better will be if I'm marginally better,
Hmm.
then that's going to be amazing.
Mm,
If I'm worse, that's not acceptable.
yeah, yeah. Okay. No,
So I
that makes
need to
sense.
be as good. And if I can be a small percentage better,
Yeah.
then that's a bonus.
Mm. No, that's a good mentality to have, I think.
I think
Yeah.
the mentality through my whole time of competing
Mm,
has gone not full circle, but has definitely changed. I
hmm.
think maturity of competing changes the goal and the outlook of what success is and how I
Mm,
define success on stage for myself, not as a coach. How I define success is about standing on the side of the stage and being happy with what I'm about to present. Like that's success for me now.
mm. Yeah. That's yeah, that's a really good point, isn't it? Yeah. No, I
Because it
like
never
that.
used to be. It never used to
Mm,
be. It started off like that in terms of just don't want to look out of place.
hmm.
Then you get a taste of success and you think, oh, I'm all right at this. I'd like to win. Then it then became very much all about winning.
Mm,
And I had a period of winning. If I didn't win, I wasn't happy.
mm.
Respectful and professional, always, but not happy. Um, but then I always said, like, it's okay not to be happy with not winning.
Mm.
Acceptable. If you don't win and you're not happy about not winning, that's 100% acceptable as long
Yeah.
as you're respectful.
Yeah.
But it ruined the enjoyment of competing for me at one point
Mm,
because I got a little bit consumed with the fact that not winning wasn't cool. I had to win.
yeah.
I think that the year that happened to me, where I was really unhappy with not winning, not because the guy that beat me wasn't better than me, the
Mm,
judges deemed him better, but I came second at the British, and then the same guy beat me at the World Finals.
right.
I came second again, and they were the worst feelings I've ever had on stage.
Right. Right. Yeah. Mm,
And then in reflection, you go, hang on, you just came second at the
yeah.
British.
Yeah.
You just came second at the World. Like,
Mm,
what's the matter with you? And it's like,
mm,
yeah, I get it on
yeah.
reflection, and
Mm,
not in the not in the moment.
yeah. I can relate to that 100%. Having gone through something similar in my British final this year of yeah, in my eyes being fairly close to potentially clinching it, but maybe it wasn't close, who knows? But in my head, I was definitely in the hunt for that first place. And then yeah, I never expected to be so disappointed with the second place, but I really was at the time.
And I think that is okay.
Mm,
I've never tell anyone that they shouldn't be because that is acceptable because that's the athlete in you.
yeah,
How you approach that and how you react to it is very different.
yeah,
And look, if it spurs you on, bodybuilding is one of those things that, like, even at your absolute best, you still might not win.
mm, yeah,
But even if you feel like you should have won,
mm,
there may have been judges that had you winning.
mm,
In my case, it was worse. My feeling to the fact that it was a split decision.
right, yeah,
The head judge made the call, gave it to him.
mm,
That made it worse. And people
mm,
were going, oh, but at least you nearly. No, no, no. Like, yeah, at least I. If I got smoked, if I looked at him and went, he's better than me,
yeah,
that would have made it easier.
yeah,
But I also felt like I was better,
right, right,
not in an arrogant way, just
mm,
in my perspective, in my opinion,
mm,
I felt like I should have won. Now the judges made the call. That's fine. It's okay.
yeah,
But it didn't feel okay. And then the same happened at the Worlds, and my dad summed it up beautifully, getting him out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning to tell him the result.
Yeah.
And he said, was it different judges? Yes. Well, he's clearly better than you then.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reflection time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was better than me
Yeah.
because the judges said so. And I feel like after that, although I still went into every show wanting to win,
Mm.
I felt like that was the turning point for me to accept that winning isn't everything.
Mm. Yeah.
And I think that kind of made, and that actually helped me to enjoy bodybuilding more again.
Mm. Yeah. No, that's really well said. And yeah, completely agree. I think as hard as these moments are in their time, I think they're great learning experiences. Absolutely. Yeah, that's really true.
It doesn't feel like it at the time, but it
Doesn't
does. It
certainly
helps.
doesn't. No. I wanted to ask you as well, Dan, what advice would you give to someone who's never done bodybuilding but wants to get into the sport?
Just enjoy your training first. I think too many people train to compete,
Mm,
whereas all the best athletes, they train.
mm,
And then they end up competing if it's right.
yeah.
You know, the amount of people, as a coach, I see this more, people coming to me wanting to compete, and they just have no training history. You know, it's like, first and foremost, like, why are you training? What are you training for? How
Mm,
long have you been training for? What's your setup? And they're just not doing the basics right.
hmm
So I think if someone wants to get into bodybuilding, just be a bodybuilder. Don't have that focus of being on stage. You can still be a bodybuilder without standing on stage.
mm, yeah,
And if you
100%.
get on stage as a result of your hard work because you've done the graft, then great.
Mm,
But don't get on stage too early. Don't do it just for the sake of it. I also don't feel like your physique, the quality of your physique, should not determine whether you get on stage or not.
mm,
Like, and I mean that from the respect of like there will be people who don't have the genetics to be successful,
yeah,
but they still want to compete. That's absolutely fine
yeah,
as long as you accept that actually you're not going to be the best.
yeah,
You may never win a show,
hmm
but if you want to get on stage to look the best you've ever looked, I'm okay with that.
yeah.
As
Mm,
long as you are actually doing it for the right reasons.
no, that's really good advice. Yeah. And you were the same as me. You'd had a long history of training before even stepping on stage as well, hadn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a bodybuilder long before I knew I was a bodybuilder.
Yeah, yeah, same here. Yeah. Now, that's funny. See, most people do get into it a lot earlier. Yeah, you were 34, I was 31. And yeah, I guess combined between us, we probably had 20 years of training before even stepping on stage for the first time.
Absolutely. But I
Mm.
think that, social media,
Yeah.
YouTube, yeah, it's played a massive part in bringing through the crop of athletes that we see now.
Mm.
The youngsters that are coming through. We just didn't have that availability. We didn't. I certainly didn't. I didn't have. We had forums,
Mm.
and I was taking advice from people that I had no idea what they looked like.
hmm
For all I know, it could have been my granny doing giving the
Yeah.
advice out. Like, but they talked a good talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you just you got information from sources that wasn't a good source, so to speak.
Mm.
Now there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of bad information, of course.
Yeah.
Social media can give a wrong impression, can give the wrong advice, but
Mm.
there's also a lot of good people giving out a lot of good information.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. There's a ton of good info out there. Yeah.
But of course, then people also give out the information that can be misleading.
Mm.
You've alluded to it in the last two podcasts, so we might as well touch it here as well.
Mm.
Bodybuilding contest prep is tough.
Mm.
Like if you go into it with the illusion that it's going to be easy,
Mm.
you're not going to make it.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
anyone that stood on stage can testify, and anyone that's honest will tell you. As a coach, I have to tell people
Mm.
this isn't easy. This is not going to be easy. Now I'm going to make it as easy or as smooth and as stress-free as I possibly can for you,
Mm.
but you're still going to have those minerals to get to stage.
Mm. Yeah, so true, and so important to be aware of that. Yeah.
and people aren't sometimes.
Mm, yeah.
And I think Josh commented on it and said that like there are a lot of people that you will never see that didn't make it to the stage.
Yeah, that's one thing people don't consider, isn't it? But yeah,
Yeah.
that's
How
true.
many people started but didn't finish that journey? Which
Mm,
is why anyone that does should be incredibly proud,
mhm.
regardless of how they look, regardless of where they place.
Yeah.
If you've made it to that stage, you got to be proud because there are a lot of people that don't.
Mm. Yeah, it's an achievement in itself. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you've given some amazing advice, Darren. I'm yeah, very grateful for your time. We'll do some quick fire questions like I did with Christian on the last episode.
Yep.
What's your favorite film?
I got two,
Okay.
Gladiator and Troy.
Oh, Gladiator is epic. Yeah. Have you seen the second one?
I have.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, and I'm not too keen on the idea of it as a concept, to be honest. But what were your thoughts?
It's like watching Rocky.
Hmm.
You know what's going to happen. You know the story. If you accept that it's what it is, you'll
Mm,
enjoy it. If
yeah.
you're looking for something wow, amazing, that's off the charts, you're not getting it.
Yeah.
But it's like watching Rocky. You know what's
Okay.
going to happen, and it's
Yeah.
still good.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. Favorite dieting food?
White potato.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Why is
I
that?
grow them. I grow all my own potatoes,
I've
so I
seen your
got.
pictures. Yeah.
I,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. And off-season food?
I'm a very very basic guy, so I like cream of rice because
Okay.
it. I like cream of rice in the off season because it's low volume. I
Yeah.
can get a lot more calories in a small meal that
Hmm.
doesn't fill me because I don't like being full.
Yeah. It's funny. I wasn't even aware of cream of rice when I last competed back in 2015. It seems to be all the rage these days. And I've tried
So,
it, and it's you're right. It's low volume. Does the job.
so I had cream of rice 15 years ago,
Right.
and I used to buy it from Waitrose, and it was unflavored, literally just cream of rice from Waitrose. It was
Right.
disgusting.
Really? Yeah.
You had to make sure you cooked it properly, and you had to make sure you put a nice flavor protein powder in it, and
Yeah.
that made it edible. But it was a
Mm.
good way of me getting in lots of calories
Mm.
because I don't like being full, and it's a great pre-workout meal.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Good. Good. Good answer there.
Now we're spoiled now.
Yeah. So many flavors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hobbies outside of bodybuilding.
My allotment, I'd guess now. Obviously, that has
Okay.
changed over the years.
Yeah.
So I used to be very, very into my art. So
Really?
I've got an A level in art.
Wow.
So I used to do a lot of painting and a lot of drawing.
Mm.
Um, and just time has put an end to that. Just don't have time to do that anymore because
Yeah.
I was someone that would spend hours on a drawing.
Hmm.
Um, but now my allotment is probably the thing that I do most outside bodybuilding.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm an artist as well, actually. I was either kind of a retired artist, but yeah, I do self-portraits. It's a great hobby, but incredibly time consuming, like you alluded to.
Yes, I when I was younger, I used to do a lot of self portraits. I would actually pay. People would pay me for my portraits when I was
Mm.
younger.
Yeah.
Um, but again, I'm so critical.
Yeah.
So it has to be perfect. So I stopped doing that a long time ago because I just don't have time to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, actually. I've spoken to a few bodybuilders that are very, very handy with drawing. I do wonder if there's something in there that translates or that links the two. It's that meticulous nature.
I would say, yeah, if you think about it, meticulous nature and patience.
Yeah, patience, big one. Yeah, yeah. My portraits would take me like 30, 40 hours to do.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah, that is very time consuming. And it's delayed gratification as well. I think you know that it's going to be weeks before you see something that resembles like what you're trying to go for. And I think bodybuilding's the same. It's going to be months and years even to get to
yeah,
where you want to be. So yeah, there could be something there. But
could be.
yeah. Well, thanks, Dan. This has been an absolute pleasure. You've given us some like really, really good actionable take-home points. Um, I'll put the links to your social media in both YouTube and Spotify. But yeah, thanks again, Darren. This has been great. And
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
cool. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time.